Imagine for a moment that you're a tiny fish, no bigger than your thumb, swimming in an ocean so vast it makes the Grand Canyon look like a puddle. Now picture this. You're not just any fish, you're a clownfish, and you've just discovered that your entire world, everything you've ever known, exists within a space smaller than most people's bathtubs. This is your reality, and it's about to become a lot more complicated than just finding Nemo. The ocean doesn't care about your size. It doesn't care that you're orange and white and undeniably adorable. To the ocean, you're prey. You're a snack waiting to happen, a morsel for creatures so large they could swallow you without even noticing. But here's the thing that blows my mind. Somehow, against all odds, you figured out how to not just survive, but thrive in one of the most dangerous neighborhoods on Earth. Your day begins before the sun filters down through 60 feet of water to reach your home. And what a home it is. You live inside what most creatures would consider a death trap, a sea anemone whose tentacles are armed with thousands of tiny harpoons, each one loaded with enough poison to paralyze a fish your size in seconds. But to you, this isn't a weapon. It's your fortress, your sanctuary, your entire world wrapped up in a bundle of stinging tentacles that wave gently in the current like deadly flowers. The relationship you have with this anemone is so bizarre, so perfectly orchestrated, that scientists are still trying to fully understand it. You see, you're covered in a special mucus, a slimy coat that somehow tricks the anemone into thinking you're part of it. It's like wearing an invisibility cloak made of your own body chemistry. Without this mucus, you'd be just another victim, paralyzed and digested within minutes. But with it, you become something extraordinary. A fish that can swim through poison and call it home. But your morning routine isn't just about hiding in tentacles. Oh no, you've got work to do. You're a farmer, a gardener, a maintenance crew, and a security guard all rolled into one tiny package. As the first rays of sunlight penetrate the water, you begin your daily ritual of tending to your anemone. You swim through its tentacles, gently massaging them, removing parasites and dead tissue with the precision of a surgeon. You're not just cleaning your home, you're keeping it alive. The anemone in return provides you with more than just shelter. It's your restaurant, your grocery store, your entire food supply. When larger fish swim too close and get stung, you feast on the leftovers. When the anemone captures prey too large for its own mouth, you help tear it into manageable pieces, taking your share in the process. It's a partnership so perfect, so mutually beneficial, that it makes human business deals look clumsy by comparison. But here's where your life gets truly mind-bending. You're not just a male or a female. You're something far more flexible, far more adaptable. You're born male, but you carry within you the potential to become female if the situation demands it. In your small community, there's a strict hierarchy, and at the top sits the largest, most dominant female. She's the queen of your underwater kingdom, the mother of all future generations. Below her is the breeding male, usually the second largest fish in the group. He's the only male allowed to mate with the queen, the only one permitted to pass on his genes. Everyone else, including you, remains smaller, subordinate, waiting. But here's the remarkable part. If something happens to the queen, if she disappears or dies, the breeding male doesn't just step up to the plate. He transforms, literally changing his body chemistry, his reproductive organs, his entire biological identity to become the new queen. And you move up the ladder. The strict social order that governed your entire existence suddenly shifts, and you might find yourself promoted from a lowly worker to the breeding male, responsible for the continuation of your species. It's like living in a society where anyone can become the president, but only through the most dramatic biological transformation imaginable. Your world is small, but it's also incredibly complex. The anemone you call home is located on a specific part of the reef, chosen not randomly, but with careful consideration. It needs to be in the right depth, with the right amount of current, the right exposure to sunlight. Too shallow and you're exposed to predators from above. Too deep and your anemone can't photosynthesize properly. Yes, your home is partially powered by sunlight, like a living solar panel with tentacles. The water around you is in constant motion, bringing fresh oxygen, carrying away waste, delivering food and potential mates. But it also brings danger. Every current could carry the scent of a predator. Every shadow could hide a threat. You've learned to read the water like a book, to interpret every ripple, every change in pressure, every shift in the light. Your vision is unlike anything humans experience. You can see colors we can't even imagine, ultraviolet patterns that decorate the reef like neon signs. The coral formations around you aren't just pretty decorations. They're a complex highway system, a maze of tunnels and hiding spots that you've memorized down to the smallest detail. You know every shortcut, every escape route, every safe haven within a 100-foot radius of your home. But perhaps the most remarkable thing about your daily existence is how you communicate. You don't have vocal cords, but you're far from silent. You communicate through body language so subtle, so nuanced, that it makes human gestures look crude. A slight change in your swimming pattern, a particular way of holding your fins, the angle of your body as you approach another fish, all of these carry meaning, convey information, establish dominance or submission. You also communicate through chemical signals, releasing pheromones into the water that can convey everything from your emotional state to your readiness to reproduce. The water around you is filled with these chemical messages, a constant stream of information flowing between every creature on the reef. It's like living in a world where everyone's thoughts and feelings are broadcast on the radio, where privacy is impossible and communication is constant. When night falls, your world transforms completely. The reef that was bustling with activity during the day becomes a different place entirely. Many of the fish that shared your daytime world disappear into crevices and caves, while an entirely different cast of characters emerges. Nocturnal predators begin their hunt, and the rules of survival change dramatically. You retreat deeper into your anemone, nestling among the tentacles like a child hiding under blankets. But even here, you're not completely safe. Some predators have learned to extract clownfish from their anemones, using techniques that would make a master chef jealous. They figured out how to grab you without triggering the anemone's stinging response, how to separate you from your sanctuary with surgical precision. Sleep, for you, is nothing like human sleep. You don't close your eyes and drift off into unconsciousness. Instead, you enter a state of reduced activity, still alert to danger but conserving energy. Your body produces extra mucus during this time, reinforcing your protective coating, ensuring that you'll wake up still immune to your anemone's deadly embrace. The reef where you live is like a city that never sleeps, but it's also like a city under constant siege. Climate change is warming the water, making it harder for the coral to survive. Ocean acidification is making it difficult for creatures to build their shells and skeletons. Pollution from land-based sources is choking the very life out of your underwater world. But you're remarkably adaptable. Your species has survived ice ages, volcanic eruptions, and countless other catastrophes. You've learned to make the best of whatever situation you find yourself in, to find opportunity in the midst of chaos. When one anemone dies, you search for another. When food becomes scarce, you adjust your diet. When the water temperature changes, you modify your behavior. Your life is a constant balance between cooperation and competition, between the need to work together and the drive to survive as an individual. You share your anemone with your family, but you also compete with them for food, for space, for the right to reproduce. It's a delicate dance, a complex social structure that maintains order in your tiny underwater kingdom. The eggs you might one day help create are works of art in themselves, tiny translucent spheres that the parents guard with their lives, fanning them with their fins to ensure proper oxygenation, removing any that show signs of disease or damage. For about a week, these eggs develop, and you can actually see the tiny fish growing inside them, their eyes becoming visible first, then their fins, then their distinctive stripes. When they hatch, these baby clownfish don't immediately take up residence in an anemone. Instead, they join the plankton, drifting in the open ocean for days or weeks, growing and developing until they're ready to settle down. It's the most dangerous time of their lives, when they're most vulnerable to predators, most at the mercy of currents and storms, but it's also the only time they'll ever see the world beyond the reef. During this planktonic stage, they might travel hundreds of miles, carried by currents to distant reefs, ensuring that clownfish populations remain connected across vast distances. It's like a mandatory gap year, a time of adventure and discovery before settling down to the serious business of adult life. Your world might be small, but it's also incredibly rich, incredibly complex, incredibly beautiful. Every day brings new challenges, new opportunities, new moments of wonder. You're living proof that size doesn't determine significance, that even the smallest creatures can lead lives of extraordinary complexity and beauty. In your few inches of ocean, you experience birth and death, cooperation and competition, love and loss, triumph and tragedy. You're a farmer, a cleaner, a guardian, a survivor. You're a master of adaptation, a genius of cooperation, a testament to the incredible diversity and resilience of life on Earth. And perhaps most remarkably of all, you're proof that home isn't just a place. It's a relationship, a partnership, a bond so strong that you're willing to swim through poison every day just to maintain it. In a world where bigger often seems better, where faster seems stronger, you've chosen a different path. You've chosen to find your strength in cooperation, your safety in symbiosis, your success in the smallest of spaces. This is what it's like to live as a clownfish. To be small but mighty, vulnerable but protected, simple but sophisticated. To call poison home and make it work. To prove that sometimes the most extraordinary lives happen in the most ordinary looking places, and that the greatest adventures don't require traveling far from home. They require seeing the magic in the place you already are. As we've seen, the clownfish's existence is far from the simple cartoon-like life many imagine. These vibrant creatures navigate a world of constant negotiation, where survival depends not just on individual strength, but on their ability to read the subtle languages of their environment and respond with precision that would make a diplomat envious. Picture this. You're barely 3 inches long, living in what is essentially a living fortress that could kill you instantly if you make one wrong move. Every morning, you wake up not in a bedroom, but inside the stinging tentacles of a creature that treats most fish like bite-sized snacks. Your daily routine involves cleaning house, tending garden, and managing family dynamics that would make reality TV producers weep with envy. This is the clownfish reality, and it's far more sophisticated than anything we see in animated films. The partnership between clownfish and anemone isn't just roommates sharing space. It's a masterclass in biological cooperation that has evolved over millions of years. The clownfish doesn't simply hide among the tentacles, it actively farms them. These fish are underwater agriculturalists, carefully removing dead tissue, bringing food scraps to their host, and even rearranging tentacles to optimize water flow. They're gardeners, housekeepers, and security guards all rolled into one tiny, colorful package. But here's where it gets truly fascinating. The clownfish doesn't just maintain its host. It chemically modifies its own body to survive there. The mucus coating that protects them from the anemone stings isn't static. It's constantly being adjusted, refined, and renewed through a process that's part biology, part chemistry, and entirely remarkable. The fish essentially rewrites its own biological code to match its host, creating a living key that fits perfectly into a deadly lock. The social dynamics within a clownfish family would make anthropologists take notes. These aren't just fish swimming around together, they're operating under a complex hierarchical system where size determines status, gender can shift based on necessity, and every individual knows exactly where they stand in the pecking order. The largest fish dominates not through aggression, but through presence and carefully calibrated displays of authority. When the dominant female dies, the transformation that follows is nothing short of biological magic. The largest male doesn't just take over, he literally becomes female, changing not just behavior but physiology. Hormones shift, reproductive organs develop, and within weeks, a completely different fish emerges. It's as if the family has a built-in succession plan written directly into their DNA. Communication in this underwater world operates on levels we're only beginning to understand. These fish don't just see each other, they taste each other's emotions through chemical signals released into the water. They read body language with the precision of professional poker players, interpreting the angle of a fin, the speed of a tail beat, or the position of a head as clearly as we read facial expressions. The anemone itself becomes a communication hub. Clownfish use their host's tentacles like a living telegraph system, sending vibrations and chemical messages through the anemone's body to communicate with family members on the other side. They've turned their home into a biological internet, where information flows through living tissue rather than fiber optic cables. Territory management requires the spatial awareness of a chess grandmaster. Each family controls a specific area around their anemone, and they know every rock, every coral formation, every hiding spot within their domain. They patrol these boundaries with the dedication of security guards, but they also maintain detailed mental maps of neighboring territories, neutral zones, and escape routes. The reef itself becomes a three-dimensional neighborhood where vertical space matters as much as the horizontal territory. Clownfish don't just swim left and right. They think in layers, using the complex architecture of coral formations to create highways, shortcuts, and secret passages. They know which currents carry food, which shadows hide predators, and which crevices offer emergency shelter. Reproduction in the clownfish world is a carefully orchestrated event that would make wedding planners jealous. The timing isn't random. It's synchronized with lunar cycles, water temperature, and current patterns. The male doesn't just guard the eggs. He becomes an underwater meteorologist, constantly monitoring conditions and adjusting his behavior to ensure optimal survival rates. The nest preparation alone is a marvel of underwater engineering. The male clears algae, removes debris, and even smooths rough surfaces to create the perfect nursery. He's not just making space, he's creating a microenvironment with specific water flow patterns, optimal lighting, and strategic positioning relative to the anemone's protective tentacles. During the incubation period, the male becomes a full-time caretaker, fanning the eggs with his fins to ensure proper oxygenation, removing any that show signs of disease, and constantly cleaning the nest area. He's simultaneously a janitor, a nurse, and a security guard, all while maintaining his other responsibilities within the family hierarchy. The hatching process reveals another layer of complexity. The larvae don't just emerge randomly, they time their departure to coincide with specific tidal conditions and plankton blooms. It's as if they have access to an underwater weather service that tells them exactly when conditions will be optimal for survival in the open ocean. This brings us to one of the most remarkable aspects of clownfish life, the epic journey of the young. These microscopic larvae, no bigger than a pinhead, embark on oceanic voyages that dwarf any human expedition. They drift for weeks in the open ocean, carried by currents that can transport them hundreds of miles from their birthplace. During this time, they're not just passive passengers. They're actively feeding, growing, and developing the skills they'll need to survive. The navigation abilities of these larvae challenge our understanding of animal behavior. Somehow, these tiny creatures can sense chemical gradients, detect subtle changes in water pressure, and even respond to acoustic signals that guide them towards suitable reef habitats. They're using senses we don't fully understand to accomplish feats of navigation that would impress seasoned sailors. The settlement process is equally remarkable. When the larvae finally reach a reef, they don't just grab the first available anemone. They're incredibly selective, using chemical cues to identify not just the right species of anemone, but one that's not already overcrowded with residents. They can somehow assess the social dynamics of a potential host family before even approaching. The integration into an established family requires diplomatic skills that would serve them well in international relations. The newcomer must read the social hierarchy, understand the established territories, and find their place without disrupting the delicate balance that keeps the family functioning. It's like being the new kid at school, except the consequences of social mistakes can be literally deadly. What makes this entire system even more remarkable is its resilience. Clownfish families can adapt to changes in their environment. Shifts in predator populations, and even physical damage to their host anemone. They're not just surviving, they're constantly adjusting their strategies, learning from experience and passing that knowledge on to the next generation. The partnership between clownfish and anemone represents something profound about life itself. It's a reminder that survival isn't always about being the strongest or the fastest. Sometimes it's about being the most cooperative, the most adaptable, and the most willing to invest in relationships that benefit everyone involved. In a world where we often focus on competition and individual achievement, the clownfish offers a different model. Their success comes not from dominating their environment, but from finding ways to work with it, to become so integrated into their ecosystem that they become essential to its functioning. The next time you see a clownfish, whether in an aquarium or while diving on a reef, remember that you're looking at one of nature's most successful diplomats. These small, colorful fish have mastered the art of living in partnership, of finding strength in cooperation, and of turning potential enemies into essential allies. They've shown us that sometimes the most powerful survival strategy isn't fighting the world around you, but finding ways to become an indispensable part of it. But perhaps even more remarkable than their intelligence is their sense of community. These aren't solitary creatures struggling alone in the vast ocean. They're part of something bigger, something that extends far beyond the boundaries of their single anemone home. Throughout the reef, clownfish families communicate in ways we're only beginning to understand. They release chemical signals that carry information about food sources, potential threats, and even their emotional states. When one family discovers a particularly rich feeding ground, they don't keep it to themselves. They share the information through a complex network of chemical messages that ripple through the reef like underwater whispers. This cooperation extends to their relationship with other species too. Clownfish aren't just partners with anemones, they're active participants in the reef's ecosystem. They serve as cleaners, removing parasites from larger fish that would otherwise struggle to reach certain spots on their bodies. They act as gardeners, carefully tending to algae patches that provide food not just for themselves, but for countless other creatures. They're engineers, modifying their environment in subtle ways that benefit the entire community. And when danger strikes, this cooperative spirit becomes even more pronounced. When predators approach, clownfish don't just hide. They coordinate their defensive strategies with military precision. Some family members will create diversions, drawing attention away from the more vulnerable members. Others will retreat deep into the anemone's protective embrace, ready to emerge and help once the threat has passed. They've even been observed working together with other reef species to mob larger predators, creating such a commotion that even formidable hunters think twice about sticking around. But life for a clownfish isn't just about survival and cooperation. They also understand the importance of play and rest. During the quieter periods of the day, when the reef settles into its afternoon rhythm, you'll often see clownfish engaging in what can only be described as games. They chase each other through the anemone's tentacles, perform elaborate swimming patterns that serve no obvious survival purpose, and even seem to engage in what looks remarkably like hide and seek. These playful moments aren't just frivolous entertainment, they're essential for maintaining the social bonds that keep their family strong. Sleep, too, is a communal activity. As darkness falls over the reef, clownfish don't simply shut down like machines. They settle into carefully chosen spots within their anemone, often snuggling close together for warmth and comfort. They enter a state that's not quite sleep as we understand it, but rather a peaceful awareness where they remain alert to danger while allowing their bodies and minds to rest. During these quiet hours, their colors often become more muted, their movements more gentle, as if they're conserving their vibrant energy for the challenges of the coming day. The clownfish's relationship with time is particularly fascinating. They don't live by our rigid schedules or artificial deadlines. Instead, they follow the ancient rhythms of the ocean, the cycles of the moon, the ebb and flow of tides. They understand that some periods are for action and energy, others for rest and reflection. They know when to be bold and when to be cautious, when to venture far from home and when to stay close to safety. This intuitive understanding of timing often means the difference between life and death in their world. Their memory capabilities are equally impressive. A clownfish can remember the exact location of dozens of different anemones across a wide stretch of reef, each one a potential safe harbor in times of trouble. They remember which cleaning stations are most productive, which currents carry the best food, and which routes offer the safest passage between destinations. They remember the faces, or more accurately, the chemical signatures of hundreds of individual fish, distinguishing between friends, family, strangers, and potential threats. But perhaps most remarkably, they remember stories. Not in the way we tell stories with words, but through behaviors, movements, and chemical signals that are passed down through generations. Young clownfish learn not just survival skills from their elders, but also the history of their particular reef section. They learn about the great storms that reshaped the coral formations, the periods of abundance and scarcity, the migrations of predators and prey. This cultural knowledge becomes part of their identity, connecting them to something larger than their individual existence. The clownfish's approach to problem solving reveals a level of creativity that challenges our assumptions about fish intelligence. When faced with new challenges, they don't simply rely on instinct. They experiment, they adapt, they innovate. They've been observed using tools, working together to move objects many times their size, and even appearing to engage in what looks like planning for future events. They understand cause and effect, can anticipate consequences, and adjust their behavior accordingly. This intelligence extends to their understanding of their own mortality. Clownfish seem to grasp that life is finite, and this awareness influences how they live. They don't waste time on petty conflicts or meaningless competition. Instead, they focus on what truly matters, maintaining their relationships, caring for their young, and contributing to the health of their community. They live with a kind of purposeful intensity that's both admirable and humbling. Their legacy isn't measured in monuments or written records, but in the living reef itself. Every clownfish that successfully raises a family, every partnership with an anemone that flourishes, every small act of cooperation that strengthens the community contributes to something that will outlast any individual life. They understand that they're part of a story that began long before they were born and will continue long after they're gone. In the end, the clownfish teaches us that true strength doesn't come from size, speed, or power. It comes from adaptability, cooperation, and an unwavering commitment to the relationships that give life meaning. In a world that often seems chaotic and unpredictable, the clownfish shows us that it's possible to find stability and purpose through connection, community, and the simple act of caring for one another. Now, let's dive deeper into the heartbeat of clownfish existence, because their daily reality is far more complex and fascinating than most people realize. Every single day begins with what I call the morning reconnaissance. As the first rays of sunlight filter through the ocean water, our clownfish protagonist doesn't just wake up lazily like you might on a weekend. No, they're immediately alert, scanning their anemone fortress for any overnight changes, any signs of danger, any shifts in the delicate ecosystem they call home. The first task is always the same: territory patrol. You see, that beautiful anemone isn't just a pretty backdrop for underwater photography, it's prime real estate. And in the ocean, prime real estate is worth fighting for. Our clownfish swims in tight circles around their anemone, checking every tentacle, every crevice, every inch of their domain. They're looking for intruders, parasites, dead tissue, anything that could threaten their sanctuary. This isn't casual swimming. This is methodical, systematic, almost military in its precision. But here's where it gets really interesting. While they're patrolling, they're also communicating. Not with words, obviously, but with an intricate language of pops, clicks, and chirps that would make a dolphin jealous. Each sound has meaning. A sharp click might mean danger approaching. A series of pops could signal all clear. A low chirp might be saying, "I'm hungry," or "time to clean the anemone." Scientists have discovered that clownfish have over a dozen distinct vocalizations, each serving a specific purpose in their complex social structure. The cleaning ritual comes next, and this is where you truly understand the partnership between clownfish and anemone. Our clownfish becomes a living scrub brush, carefully removing algae, dead skin, and debris from their host's tentacles. But they're not just cleaning, they're massaging. The gentle friction from their movements stimulates the anemone's circulation, helping it stay healthy and vibrant. In return, the anemone provides protection and shares its meals. It's a spa day, and security service rolled into one. Now, let's talk about the social dynamics, because this is where clownfish society gets absolutely wild. Forget everything you think you know about fish hierarchies. The clownfish system is based on size, aggression, and something called behavioral dominance. The largest, most aggressive fish becomes the breeding female. The second largest becomes the breeding male. Everyone else? They're basically teenagers waiting their turn, non-breeding juveniles who help maintain the territory and assist with childbearing duties. But here's the kicker. If something happens to the dominant female, the breeding male doesn't just step up. He literally transforms, changing sex to become the new female. His body chemistry shifts, his reproductive organs develop, even his behavior patterns alter completely. This process can take anywhere from a few weeks to several months, during which time the entire social structure reorganizes itself. The largest juvenile becomes the new breeding male, and everyone else moves up one rung in the hierarchy. This gender flexibility isn't just convenient, it's revolutionary. Think about it from an evolutionary perspective. Most species are locked into their biological sex from birth, but clownfish have evolved the ability to adapt their gender based on social need. If the breeding female dies, the entire group doesn't collapse. Instead, they seamlessly reorganize, ensuring the survival of their genetic line. The feeding strategy is equally sophisticated. Clownfish are opportunistic omnivores, which means they'll eat pretty much anything they can fit in their mouths. But they're not random about it. They have a schedule, a system, a method to their madness. Morning feeding focuses on zooplankton, tiny floating organisms that drift past their anemone. Midday brings algae grazing, where they carefully harvest the microscopic plants growing on nearby rocks and coral. Evening means hunting for small crustaceans and worms that emerge from the reef's crevices. But perhaps the most fascinating part of their daily routine is what I call the intelligence gathering network. Clownfish are constantly collecting information about their environment. They monitor water temperature, current patterns, the behavior of other fish species, the health of nearby coral, even the phases of the moon. This isn't passive observation. They're actively processing this information, using it to make decisions about when to venture out for food, when to seek shelter, when to be aggressive, when to be cautious. The afternoon typically brings what researchers call social maintenance time. This is when the hierarchy gets reinforced through a complex series of interactions. The dominant female might chase subordinates away from the choicest spots on the anemone. The breeding male might perform courtship displays, keeping his reproductive skills sharp. The juveniles engage in play fighting, practicing the aggressive behaviors they'll need if they ever move up in rank. And then there's the evening ritual that most people never see. As darkness falls, clownfish don't just go to sleep. They prepare for the night like soldiers preparing for battle. They position themselves strategically within the anemone's tentacles, choosing spots that provide maximum protection while still allowing quick escape routes. They adjust their coloration, becoming darker to blend with the shadows. They slow their breathing and heart rate, entering a state of heightened alertness that allows them to detect predators while conserving energy. The night shift is when the real danger emerges. Moray eels, groupers, octopi, and other nocturnal predators begin their hunt. But clownfish have evolved remarkable strategies to survive these dark hours. They can detect the electrical fields generated by approaching predators. They can sense vibrations in the water from hundreds of yards away. They can even communicate silently with their anemone, triggering defensive responses that create an impenetrable barrier of stinging tentacles. But survival isn't just about avoiding predators. It's about thriving in an environment that's constantly changing. Ocean currents shift, bringing new nutrients and new threats. Water temperature fluctuates with the seasons, affecting everything from metabolism to breeding cycles. Coral reefs themselves are dynamic ecosystems, constantly growing, dying, and regenerating. Clownfish have adapted to these changes with remarkable flexibility. They can adjust their diet based on available food sources. They can modify their breeding schedule based on environmental conditions. They can even relocate their entire family group if their current anemone becomes unsuitable. This adaptability is what has allowed them to survive and thrive in one of the ocean's most competitive environments. The breeding season brings its own set of challenges and behaviors. When conditions are right, the dominant pair begins an elaborate courtship ritual that can last for days. The male prepares a nesting site, usually a flat rock or coral surface near the base of their anemone. He cleans it meticulously, removing every speck of debris, every trace of algae. The female inspects his work, and if she approves, she'll deposit her eggs in neat, organized rows. But the male's job is just beginning. For the next week to 10 days, he becomes a full-time parent, fanning the eggs with his fins to provide oxygen, removing any that show signs of disease or damage, defending the nest from potential threats. He barely eats during this period, dedicating almost every moment to ensuring his offspring's survival. When the eggs finally hatch, the tiny larvae are swept away by the current, beginning their own perilous journey through the open ocean. Most won't survive. Those that do will spend weeks drifting as plankton, growing and developing, until they're ready to find their own anemone and begin the cycle again. This is the reality of clownfish existence. Not the cute animated character from movies, but a sophisticated, intelligent, highly adapted creature living in one of the most challenging environments on Earth. Every day brings new obstacles, new opportunities, new decisions that could mean the difference between life and death. They're not just surviving, they're thriving. They're building communities, raising families, maintaining territories, and adapting to changes that would overwhelm less resilient species. They're living proof that success in nature isn't about being the biggest or strongest. It's about being smart, adaptable, and knowing how to build relationships that benefit everyone involved. The clownfish lifestyle is a masterclass in cooperation, communication, and community building. It's a reminder that even in the vast, dangerous ocean, there's room for creatures who choose partnership over predation, collaboration over competition, and intelligence over brute force. Now that we've explored the extraordinary journey of adaptation and resilience, let's dive deeper into perhaps the most fascinating aspect of clownfish existence: the daily rhythm of life in the reef. Because living as a clownfish isn't just about surviving the chaos. It's about thriving in a world that operates on schedules most humans would find impossible to maintain. Your day begins before the sun touches the water. In the blue-black pre-dawn hours, when the reef holds its breath between night and day, you're already stirring. This isn't by choice. It's hardwired into your very being. Your internal clock, more precise than any human invention, responds to the subtle shift in water temperature, the barely perceptible change in current patterns, the microscopic variations in plankton density that signal dawn's approach. But here's where it gets interesting. You don't wake up like a human stumbling toward coffee. You wake up like a soldier preparing for battle. Because every single day in the reef is a chess match played at lightning speed, where one wrong move means death, and every right move means you get to play again tomorrow. The first task is territory inspection. Your anemone home isn't just a house. It's a fortress, a farm, a nursery, and a pharmacy all rolled into one. You begin your patrol at the base, checking for signs of intrusion. Other fish have been testing your boundaries all night. You can smell their presence in the water, read their intentions in the chemical signatures they leave behind. A triggerfish brushed too close to the northern edge. A sergeant major made a reconnaissance pass near the eastern tentacles. You catalog every violation, every attempted trespass, because tomorrow they'll be back with more detailed intelligence. Your inspection isn't casual. You're examining every tentacle, every crevice, every hiding spot with the intensity of a detective at a crime scene. You're looking for parasites that might have attached overnight, checking for signs of disease or stress in your anemone partner, noting which tentacles need cleaning and which areas require reinforcement. This isn't just maintenance, it's survival protocol. As the first rays of sunlight penetrate the water, the reef transforms from a shadowy maze into a bustling metropolis, and you transform with it. The cautious, methodical inspector becomes a hyperactive multitasker. You're simultaneously a gardener, a security guard, a maintenance worker, and a diplomat, all before most creatures have even opened their eyes. The gardening begins immediately. Your anemone partner has been working all night, filtering water, capturing microscopic prey, processing nutrients, but it needs your help to reach peak efficiency. You begin the delicate dance of anemone cultivation. Swimming through the tentacles in specific patterns, your movement creates water currents that bring fresh, oxygen-rich water to the base while carrying away waste products. You're not just cleaning, you're optimizing a living system more complex than any human technology. But the gardening goes deeper than basic maintenance. You're actively feeding your anemone partner. Throughout the night, you've been collecting small bits of organic matter, tiny crustaceans, microscopic algae. Now you present these offerings with the precision of a master chef preparing a gourmet meal. Each piece of food is placed strategically, delivered to the tentacles that can process it most efficiently. You know your anemone's appetite better than you know your own. The security work begins the moment other fish start their daily routines. Your territory isn't just the anemone itself, it's the entire three-dimensional space around it. Roughly a sphere about 6 feet in diameter, extending from the sandy bottom to the open water above. Every inch of this space is yours to defend, and every inch is constantly under threat. The threats come in waves. First, the early morning foragers. Small wrasses and gobies that hope to sneak past your defenses while you're distracted with anemone maintenance. You deal with these intruders with surgical precision. A quick dash, a flash of orange and white, a brief aggressive display, and they scatter. No energy wasted on prolonged confrontation. Efficiency is everything when you're defending a territory that's under constant assault. Then come the more serious challenges. Butterfly fish that specialize in eating anemone tentacles. These aren't casual opportunists. They're professional predators with strategies developed over millions of years. They approach in coordinated groups, testing your response time, probing for weaknesses in your defense. One will make a feint from the left while another approaches from the right. A third might try to approach from above, using the sun's glare as camouflage. Your response is equally sophisticated. You've developed what marine biologists call threat assessment protocols. You can instantly evaluate the species, size, number, and approach vector of any potential threat. Your response is calibrated precisely to the level of danger. A small, inexperienced butterfly fish gets a warning display. A large, aggressive group gets the full treatment. You'll literally throw yourself at them, using your body as a weapon, your bright colors as a psychological warfare tool. But here's what most people don't understand about territorial defense. It's not about aggression, it's about communication. Every charge, every threat display, every aggressive maneuver is actually a complex message. You're broadcasting information about your size, your health, your determination, your energy reserves. You're negotiating boundaries, establishing hierarchies, maintaining the delicate balance that keeps the reef community functioning. The most fascinating aspect of your security work is the intelligence gathering. You're not just reacting to immediate threats. You're collecting data about every fish in your neighborhood. Who's been eating well and who's looking thin. Which individuals are showing signs of disease. What new fish have moved into the area. Who's breeding and who's struggling. This information isn't just interesting. It's survival data that will inform your decisions for weeks to come. The maintenance work never stops. Your anemone partner is constantly growing, constantly changing, constantly needing adjustment. Tentacles need to be arranged for optimal feeding efficiency. Debris needs to be removed from the base. Dead or damaged tissue needs to be carefully cleaned away. You're like a living caretaker for a creature that's simultaneously your home, your partner, and your life support system. But the maintenance goes beyond your anemone. You're also maintaining relationships with dozens of other reef creatures, the cleaner shrimp that removes parasites from your scales, the small gobies that help with territory defense in exchange for protection, the algae-eating fish that keeps your anemone's base clean. Each relationship requires constant attention, constant reinforcement, constant negotiation. The diplomatic work is perhaps the most complex aspect of your daily routine. You're not just defending territory, you're managing a complex network of relationships that extends throughout the reef community. You have allies who help with territory defense, neutral parties who pose no threat but require respectful treatment, competitors who must be monitored but not unnecessarily provoked, and enemies who must be dealt with decisively but without triggering larger conflicts. Your diplomatic skills are tested constantly. When a juvenile fish of your own species approaches your territory, you must decide whether to drive it away or allow it to join your group. The decision involves complex calculations about food availability, territory carrying capacity, the individual's potential contribution to group defense, and the current social dynamics within your existing group. When a group of tourists or researchers approaches your territory, you must assess whether they represent a threat, an opportunity, or simply a neutral presence to be tolerated. Your response will be based on past experiences, current stress levels, breeding status, and dozens of other factors processed in milliseconds. The most challenging diplomatic situations arise when your territorial boundaries overlap with those of other species. You might share space with a family of gobies, a cleaning station operated by wrasses, or a group of juvenile fish using your anemone as a nursery. These multi-species territories require constant negotiation, constant boundary adjustment, constant compromise. As the day progresses, your activities shift based on the changing rhythms of the reef. Mid-morning is feeding time, not just for you, but for the entire reef community. The water fills with plankton, small crustaceans, and organic particles stirred up by the increasing activity. You become a hunter, darting out from your anemone to capture prey with precision that would make a professional athlete jealous. Your hunting technique is a masterpiece of efficiency. You can spot a tiny copepod from 3 feet away, calculate its trajectory, and intercept it with a single precise movement. You're hunting in 3 dimensions in moving water while simultaneously monitoring for threats and maintaining awareness of your territory boundaries. It's like playing 3-dimensional chess while running a marathon. But you're not just hunting for yourself. You're hunting for your anemone partner, for any eggs you might be guarding, for other members of your group who might be injured or stressed. You're managing a complex food distribution system that ensures everyone in your household gets proper nutrition. The afternoon brings different challenges. The reef activity peaks, and with it, the competition for space and resources. This is when territorial disputes are most likely to escalate. This is when predators are most active. This is when your skills as a defender, diplomat, and strategist are tested to their limits. You're constantly making split-second decisions that could determine whether you live or die. Do you abandon your territory to chase away an intruder, leaving your anemone vulnerable to other threats? Do you risk injury fighting a larger competitor, or do you yield territory and hope to reclaim it later? Do you help a neighbor defend their territory, strengthening your alliance but using energy you might need for your own defense? These decisions aren't made in isolation. They're based on your accumulated knowledge of reef politics, your assessment of current conditions, your evaluation of your own physical and psychological state, and your best guess about what the future might hold. You're operating with the strategic thinking of a chess grandmaster, the tactical awareness of a fighter pilot, and the social intelligence of a diplomat. Evening brings a different set of challenges. As the light fades, the reef's character changes completely. Daytime fish retreat to their hiding places. Nocturnal predators begin to stir. The very chemistry of the water changes as photosynthesis slows and different biological processes take over. Your evening routine is as complex as your morning preparation. You must secure your territory for the night, ensuring that your anemone partner is properly positioned for nocturnal feeding. You must check on any eggs or juveniles under your protection. You must reinforce relationships with allies who might provide mutual defense during the vulnerable night hours. As darkness falls, you don't simply go to sleep. You enter a state of heightened awareness, a kind of meditative vigilance that allows you to rest while remaining alert to danger. Your senses are tuned to detect the slightest change in water chemistry, the faintest vibration that might signal an approaching predator, the subtle shift in your anemone's behavior that might indicate stress or illness. This isn't the peaceful sleep of a creature at the top of the food chain. This is the restless vigilance of a prey animal that knows death can come at any moment. Even in your deepest rest, part of your mind remains alert, processing information, maintaining awareness, ready to respond to threats in milliseconds. And then, as the first hint of dawn touches the water, the cycle begins again. Another day of territorial defense, relationship management, resource gathering, and survival. Another day of living at the intersection of cooperation and competition, of individual survival and community responsibility. This is the reality of clownfish existence. Not the simple, colorful life depicted in children's movies, but a complex, demanding, intellectually and physically challenging existence that requires constant adaptation, constant learning, constant growth. It's a life where every day brings new challenges, new opportunities, new tests of your intelligence, your courage, and your ability to thrive in one of the most competitive environments on Earth. But what happens when the day is done? When the protective tentacles of your anemone fold inward and darkness settles over the reef like a heavy blanket? This is when your world transforms completely, when the clownfish you've been all day must adapt to an entirely different rhythm of existence. The night brings its own language, its own dangers, its own unexpected revelations about what it truly means to live as one of the ocean's most remarkable creatures. Sleep, as humans understand it, doesn't exist in your world. There's no single moment when consciousness simply switches off, no pillow to rest your head upon, no dreams to carry you through the hours of darkness. Instead, you enter what marine biologists call a state of reduced activity, a twilight consciousness where you remain alert enough to respond to immediate threats, but relaxed enough to allow your body the rest it desperately needs after a day of constant vigilance. As the sun disappears beyond the horizon and the reef's daytime symphony gradually fades to whispers, you begin your evening ritual. First, you perform one final patrol of your territory's boundaries, checking every crevice where a predator might hide, every shadow where danger could lurk. Your movements become more deliberate, more cautious. The vibrant colors that served as your daytime uniform begin to fade, your orange growing muted, your white stripes becoming less pronounced. This isn't just a trick of the diminishing light, it's an active adaptation, a conscious dimming of your natural brightness to avoid attracting unwanted attention in the darkness. Your anemone, too, undergoes its own transformation. The tentacles that swayed gracefully in the current during daylight hours now contract slightly, creating a more enclosed, protective fortress. The stinging cells that defend your home become more sensitive, more reactive to the slightest disturbance. You can feel the change in your sanctuary's energy, the way it shifts from welcoming host to vigilant guardian. This is your signal to settle in for the night, to find your preferred sleeping spot among the tentacles you know by touch alone. But choosing where to sleep isn't a casual decision. You have specific preferences, locations within your anemone that offer the perfect balance of protection and quick escape routes. Some nights you nestle deep within the central column, surrounded by the thickest concentration of tentacles. Other nights, you position yourself near the edge where you can monitor the surrounding waters while still remaining within your sanctuary's protective embrace. The choice depends on countless factors: the phase of the moon, the strength of the current, the presence of predators you detected during your evening patrol, even your own emotional state after the day's social interactions. As you settle into position, your body undergoes remarkable physiological changes. Your heart rate slows dramatically, your breathing becomes more rhythmic and deliberate. The constant muscular tension that keeps you alert during daylight hours begins to ease, but never completely disappears. Your fins continue to make subtle adjustments, micro movements that keep you properly positioned within the anemone's embrace. Your eyes, those remarkable organs that served you so well during the day, don't close in the way human eyes do during sleep. Instead, they remain partially open, maintaining a reduced but persistent watch over your surroundings. The reef's nighttime soundscape becomes your lullaby, a complex symphony that would seem chaotic to human ears, but provides you with essential information about your world's nocturnal activities. The clicking of crabs scuttling across the coral, the gentle swoosh of nocturnal fish moving through the water column, the distant calls of dolphins hunting in deeper waters. All of these sounds weave together into a familiar pattern that signals safety and normalcy. Your brain processes these sounds even in your resting state, constantly analyzing them for anything unusual, anything that might indicate danger approaching your territory. But the night isn't just about rest and recuperation. It's also when some of your most important physiological processes occur. Your immune system becomes more active, repairing any damage from the day's activities, fighting off potential infections, strengthening your body's defenses against the countless microorganisms that inhabit the reef. Your digestive system works more efficiently, processing the day's meals and converting them into the energy you'll need for tomorrow's challenges. Your nervous system consolidates memories, strengthening the neural pathways that encode important information about your territory, your relationships, your survival strategies. Most remarkably, your mucus production increases during these resting hours. This isn't just a protective coating that allows you to live safely among the anemone's stinging tentacles. It's a complex biological substance that serves multiple functions. It helps regulate your body temperature, provides additional protection against parasites and infections, and even contains chemical compounds that can influence the behavior of other fish. As you rest, your body fine-tunes this mucus production, adjusting its composition based on the day's experiences and tomorrow's anticipated challenges. The social dynamics of your family group don't simply pause when darkness falls. Even in your resting state, you remain connected to your mate and offspring through subtle chemical signals, gentle movements that maintain contact without causing disturbance, and low-frequency sounds that carry through the water like whispered conversations. If you're the dominant female, you maintain your position of authority even while resting, your body language conveying your status to any family member who might be tempted to challenge the established hierarchy. If you're a subordinate male, you position yourself respectfully, maintaining the social distance that keeps the family structure stable and peaceful. Young clownfish face particular challenges during the night hours. Their smaller size makes them more vulnerable to predators. Their less developed protective mucus coating provides less defense against the anemone stings, and their inexperience means they're still learning to interpret the reef's nocturnal signals. Parent clownfish adjust their own resting patterns to provide additional protection for their offspring, positioning themselves strategically to create barriers between the young fish and potential threats. The night becomes a time of intensive parental care, with parents sacrificing their own optimal rest to ensure their offspring's survival. The reef's predators know that night brings opportunities, and they adjust their hunting strategies accordingly. Moray eels emerge from their daytime hiding spots, their serpentine bodies perfectly adapted for navigating the reef's crevices in search of sleeping fish. Octopi become more active, their intelligence and camouflage abilities making them formidable nocturnal hunters. Even some fish that are harmless during the day become opportunistic predators under cover of darkness. Your anemone's stinging tentacles provide excellent protection, but they're not impenetrable. A determined predator with the right strategy can still pose a threat, which is why your vigilance never completely relaxes, even in your deepest rest. Weather patterns affect your nighttime experience in ways that daylight hours don't reveal. Strong currents can make it difficult to maintain your position within the anemone, requiring constant micro-adjustments that prevent truly restful sleep. Temperature changes can alter your metabolism, affecting how deeply you can rest and how quickly you can respond to threats. Storm systems bring pressure changes that you feel in your swim bladder, creating discomfort that keeps you in a heightened state of alertness. Moon phases influence not just the amount of light filtering down to your reef, but also the behavior of countless other species, creating ripple effects throughout the entire ecosystem that you must navigate and adapt to. The night also brings unexpected visitors to your territory. Nocturnal fish species that remain hidden during daylight hours emerge to feed and hunt, some of them potential threats, others simply curious about the clownfish family living in the magnificent anemone. Juvenile fish of various species use the cover of darkness to disperse from their natal territories, sometimes passing through your domain as they search for new homes. Each encounter requires assessment and response, decisions about whether to remain hidden, issue warnings, or prepare for defensive action. As the night progresses and approaches its deepest hour, your body reaches its most vulnerable state. This is when your rest is most profound, when your body's repair and regeneration processes are most active, when your connection to the surrounding environment is most tenuous. Yet, even in this state, you maintain an awareness that would astonish human observers. Your lateral line system continues to detect water movements. Your chemical sensors continue to analyze the water's molecular composition. Your acoustic processing continues to monitor the reef's sound signature. You are simultaneously deeply at rest and perpetually alert, a contradiction that perfectly captures the essence of survival in one of Earth's most demanding environments. The hours before dawn bring their own unique challenges and opportunities. This is when the reef's nocturnal and diurnal species overlap. When the hunters of the night encounter the early risers of the day, predator activity often peaks during these transitional hours, as hunters take advantage of the confusion and reduce visibility. Your body begins to prepare for the coming day, gradually increasing its alertness, slowly brightening its colors, preparing for the transition from night's cautious rest to day's active vigilance. When the first rays of sunlight begin to penetrate the water column, you don't simply wake up in the way humans do. Instead, you gradually increase your activity level, your movements becoming more purposeful, your awareness expanding outward from your immediate vicinity to encompass your entire territory. The anemone's tentacles begin to expand and sway more actively, responding to the increasing light and the microscopic organisms that form part of its diet. Your family group begins to stir, each member gradually resuming their daytime roles and responsibilities. The transition from night to day is perhaps the most dangerous time in your 24-hour cycle. Your body is still adjusting from its resting state. Your reflexes are not yet at their peak, and predators know that this is when potential prey is most vulnerable. Yet you must begin your daily activities, must start the territorial patrols, and feeding behaviors that will sustain you through another day. The first hour after sunrise requires a careful balance between caution and necessity, between the safety of remaining hidden and the demands of survival that require active engagement with your environment. This nightly cycle of rest and renewal, of vulnerability and protection, of individual needs and family responsibilities repeats itself throughout your entire life. Each night brings variations based on seasonal changes, weather patterns, social dynamics, and the ever-evolving ecosystem around you. Yet, the fundamental pattern remains constant, a rhythm as old as the reef itself, a dance between consciousness and rest that has allowed your species to thrive in one of the ocean's most challenging environments for millions of years. As you emerge from each night's rest, you carry with you not just the physical renewal that these hours provide, but also the accumulated wisdom of countless generations of clownfish who have faced the same challenges, made the same careful calculations, and survived the same dangers. Your nighttime experience connects you to the deep history of your species, to the evolutionary adaptations that have made your remarkable life possible, and to the ongoing story of survival and adaptation that defines existence on the coral reef. Now we reach the end of our underwater journey through the eyes of a clownfish, And the truth is both humbling and profound. Living as a clownfish isn't just about finding food or avoiding predators, or even maintaining the delicate dance with sea anemones. It's about understanding that survival in the ocean requires something most land dwellers never truly grasp: the art of being simultaneously independent and completely interconnected. Every day begins with the same fundamental question that has driven clownfish evolution for millions of years. How do we balance the needs of the individual with the survival of the group? How do we navigate a world where your closest ally, the sea anemone, could kill you with a single touch if the relationship falters? How do we maintain social hierarchies that can shift overnight, literally transforming male to female when circumstances demand it? The answer lies in something remarkable about clownfish psychology that scientists are only beginning to understand. These fish don't just adapt to their environment, they actively shape it. When a clownfish tends to its anemone, removing debris and driving away parasites, it's not just maintaining a home, it's cultivating a relationship that extends far beyond simple symbiosis. The anemone responds to the clownfish's presence by growing larger, producing more protective mucus, and even adjusting its feeding patterns to accommodate its fish partners. This level of environmental manipulation requires a sophisticated understanding of cause and effect that challenges our assumptions about fish intelligence. A clownfish doesn't just know that cleaning the anemone is good. It understands timing, recognizes when the anemone is stressed, and can predict how its actions will affect the entire microecosystem they share. But perhaps the most striking aspect of clownfish existence is how they've mastered the art of controlled aggression. Watch a clownfish defend its territory and you'll see something that looks almost like fury. Darting movements, aggressive posturing. Fearless charges at fish 20 times their size. Yet this aggression is never random, never wasteful. It's precision-engineered social communication, designed to establish boundaries without unnecessary violence. The hierarchical system that governs clownfish society operates on principles that would make corporate executives envious. Clear chains of command, defined roles, predictable advancement opportunities, and built-in succession planning. When the dominant female dies, the largest male doesn't just take over. He undergoes a complete physiological transformation, changing sex to fill the void. This isn't just adaptation, it's strategic workforce management at the cellular level. Living through a clownfish's reproductive cycle reveals another layer of complexity. The courtship rituals, the nest preparation, the synchronized spawning, all of it occurs within a social structure that must continue functioning even as new life enters the equation. The male's dedication to guarding and tending the eggs while the female maintains territorial boundaries shows a division of labor that maximizes survival chances for both parents and offspring. The sensory world of a clownfish operates on frequencies and chemical signals that create a three-dimensional map of opportunity and danger. They can detect the approach of predators through vibrations in the water column, identify individual anemones by their chemical signatures, and navigate back to home territories, using a combination of visual landmarks and olfactory memory that rivals any GPS system. Climate change has introduced variables into this ancient system that clownfish are struggling to decode. Rising ocean temperatures don't just make the water warmer. They alter the chemical composition of seawater, affect the growth patterns of coral reefs, and disrupt the delicate balance between anemones and their zooxanthellae partners. For a clownfish, these changes represent an existential crisis that requires evolutionary solutions on a timeline that may be too short for natural adaptation. Yet clownfish continue to demonstrate remarkable resilience. Populations that have lost their traditional anemone partners have been observed forming relationships with substitute hosts. Some groups have developed new feeding strategies, expanded their territorial ranges, or modified their social structures to cope with changing conditions. This behavioral flexibility suggests that clownfish possess something approaching what we might call cultural learning, the ability to pass adaptive strategies from one generation to the next. The night brings a different set of challenges and opportunities. As the reef settles into its nocturnal rhythm, Clownfish must navigate a world where many of their usual predators are replaced by different threats. Night-hunting moray eels, prowling octopi, and free-swimming worms all present dangers that require different defensive strategies. The clownfish's ability to remain mobile and alert while still getting adequate rest speaks to a sleep system that's far more sophisticated than simple unconsciousness. Perhaps most remarkably, clownfish have developed what can only be described as a form of environmental prophecy. They can sense changes in barometric pressure that signal approaching storms, detect shifts in water chemistry that indicate seasonal changes, and even respond to lunar cycles that affect spawning conditions. This predictive ability allows them to prepare for challenges before they fully manifest, stockpiling energy, reinforcing social bonds, and positioning themselves for optimal survival. The relationship between clownfish and their anemone hosts represents one of nature's most successful partnerships, but it's built on a foundation of mutual vulnerability that creates extraordinary interdependence. Neither partner can thrive without the other, yet both retain enough independence to make strategic decisions about their shared future. It's a model of cooperation that emerges not from altruism, but from enlightened self-interest. Living as a clownfish means existing in a state of constant negotiation with forces far beyond your control, yet maintaining agency through intelligence, adaptability, and social cooperation. It means being small enough to hide in the tentacles of a sea anemone, yet bold enough to drive away predators that could swallow you whole. It means living in a world where gender is fluid, where hierarchy is both rigid and flexible, where home is both sanctuary and potential trap. The ocean doesn't care about individual clownfish survival, but clownfish have learned to care for each other in ways that maximize their collective chances against impossible odds. They've created societies that function across multiple generations, developed technologies of cooperation that span species boundaries, and maintain cultural traditions that encode survival wisdom accumulated over millions of years. To live as a clownfish is to understand that the ocean is not a place you conquer, but a community you join. Every day brings the possibility of transformation, the necessity of cooperation, and the opportunity to contribute to something larger than yourself. In their bright orange bodies and fearless spirits, clownfish carry lessons about resilience, adaptability, and the power of small creatures to create meaningful change in vast and dangerous worlds.